I'm Eric Singer, Gazette.com, and this is City Chat, where we go beyond the sound bites to get you real information, facts about what's going on in the Pikes Peak region. And joining us as always, of course, Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here, Eric.
And Gazette reporter Billie, Stanton, and Anleu. Thank you, my co-host.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Billie?
Mayor, I would like to hear your thoughts. I know that you support the proposed land swap with the Broadmoor and the City Parks Recreation and Cultural Services gang. And there's been quite a bit of opposition from what you call, I think, the 80906ers. You're one of those, aren't you? Yeah. And there's been quite a bit of consternation, but other people too in the community, Richard Scorman, Kent Obie, who served on the Parks Board, are concerned about giving up Strawberry Fields, as they call it, because it's a legacy open space chunk. And now, I think my story ran today, but now there's the Trails and Open Space Coalition is coming out to support it under certain conditions, if certain conditions are met. And the Medicine Wheel Trail advocates, surprisingly, had opposed it, and they're now saying, well, we can support this under these conditions also. They're not endorsing it yet. But it feels as if people are suddenly taking a closer look and thinking we can add to the trails, you know, we can preserve this space, it may not be that bad a deal. So can you tell me your view on this?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's a very good deal, and let me explain this. And I gotta tell you, not only am I an 80906er, but I grew up near the entrance of North Cheyenne Canyon. This was my playground when I was a kid. I'm very familiar with Strawberry Fields. It's a beautiful area. But, and I always expect, I mean, I've been around political issues for a long time. I expect people, 99% of people, to always advocate in their perceived self-interest. But I think what's starting to happen now is people are starting to understand that this deal is in everybody's actual self-interest. What would happen is the city would convey this parcel, and it's a very beautiful piece of property, to the Broadmoor. But only a small part of it would be utilized by the Broadmoor. There would be a conservation easement on the rest. So all these people that walk their dog, ride their bike in this property would still be able to do that, still have access. But with a conservation easement, I can assure you the property will be better taken care of than it would be by the city, who doesn't have the resources, doesn't have the motivation to be out there making sure it's cared for all the time. The beer cans are picked up, all that sort of thing. So anybody who has access to it now will still have access. Yes, there's a benefit to the Broadmoor. The Broadmoor is one of the largest economic drivers in Colorado Springs, an incredible contribution to our tax base. And yes, they have the advantage of having a picnic area there that they can take their guests to. But it doesn't in any way detract from the pristine nature of this very large acreage. That will only take place on a small portion of it. Then the city gets a great deal of land, significantly more than is conveyed. And I think when you see the appraisals, that all works out. And it will give greater public access to property on Bar Trail, next to the incline, will eventually lead to the county getting a greater segment of land for Bear Creek Park. It has trail connections. It's very much in the interest of everybody in Colorado Springs, particularly when you consider there's not going to be any loss of access to the pristine Strawberry Fields area. This really is a win-win, and I think folks are starting to realize that with that conservation easement, that's in fact what's taking place here.
Another hot topic, of course, potholes. And this is going to be a two-pronged question. First, let's find out about Pothole Patrol, how many have been fixed. And the second, 2C money. Let's talk about the road construction.
Okay. We have 8 crews in the city that are out doing potholes whenever the weather allows. Now, as I think I've explained in prior appearances, in the wintertime, essentially what you do is pothole fixes. You basically just fill them so that people won't blow their tire out and things like that. Whereas in the summertime, we do more full-fledged repairs where you actually cut out a chunk of the asphalt and put in a larger repair. As I've emphasized many times, folks, filling potholes is just dealing with the symptoms of road deterioration. When you repair a pothole, as we found out in this last snowstorm, all those potholes that we repaired last summer, thousands and thousands of them, with this last freeze and thaw, the road deteriorated around the new fill, and then you have a larger pothole. Since the beginning of the year, even despite some inclement weather, we have filled 7,400 potholes. Now there's untold hundreds of thousands of potholes out there, I suspect. But that's how busy they are. And they will continue to fill potholes even when 2C money comes into play, because 2C money will be done for road overlays and reconstruction. But we'll continue to still do all the pothole filling that we possibly can. But hopefully when we get the overlays done, of course, we won't have to do potholes on those, or the reconstructions, we won't have to do potholes on those. We have not yet received the January sales tax revenues, so we don't know exactly how much has come in January. That should be any day now. We'll know how much is collected. January is a pretty low collection month, but I saw that car sales were good, and car sales do drive a lot of sales tax collection. So we'll see what those numbers look like, but the money's starting to flow coming in from January. We'll go ahead. We've about to award 7 concrete contracts for curb and gutter work, and you'll see that work taking place very quickly. Now there is some curb and gutter work going on out there, including I noticed at the intersection of Argus and 21st Street, but that was pre-scheduled. 2C curb and gutter work will begin very quickly now because we have identified 7 contractors. And then I think another week before the RFPs are in for pavement contractors, and those contracts will be awarded so that that work can begin in late April, beginning of May, which is really the first time that you can do any pavement work.
And with Pothole Patrol, there's always an app for that, and the City of Colorado Springs has an app for that.
Yeah, GoCo Springs, and we really encourage, you can call in and say where a pothole is, but if you use this app, Eric, it's pretty neat. Mm-hmm. You send us a picture, and by GPS, we know where, when you took the picture, we know where the pothole is, and the city can just go out and repair it and figure out where it is from your transmission and the use of GPS. And so that's really a good way to do it. And we get lots of people reporting them, no question about it.
All right, now final thoughts?
Some more good news, January and February were very good at the airport. We had 10% more traffic than we've had in prior Januaries and Februaries. Unfortunately, for the whole year of 2015, we continued somewhat of a decline, but I think with the existing carriers increasing the size of their planes, increasing some of their routes, and then we have Frontier coming on in April with the Vegas flight, June with the Phoenix flight, and hopefully more. I think that's all good news. The other thing I have to, I feel a lot of people do ratings, and as I said at a press conference the other day, some of these ratings aren't very serious. I'm not sure we're the best city for people looking for love, but we were rated that. But the fact, by the Wall Street Journal of all things. But I do think we can take seriously U.S. News and World Report, who has a history of doing very credible rankings in colleges and universities, and has decided to do rankings of the best cities in America to live in. They looked at the 100 largest cities and rated us the 5th best place in America to live in. And when you look at the company that we're in, how often do you hear a discussion in Colorado Springs that said, well, we ought to be more like Austin, or we ought to be more like Portland, or we ought to be more like Seattle or something? Well, guess what, folks? We're in the company of Denver, Austin, Raleigh-Durham, seen as a very vibrant economic place. We're ahead of Seattle, Portland, a whole bunch of places, San Francisco, that are seen as very viable economic places. So it is humorous, and your newspaper did an editorial that I do think kind of humorous, because you get this, you know, we got too many potholes, we got this or that, and kind of the negativos. But what this is a survey of people throughout the United States, and has consistent criteria from city to city about your universities, about your health care. And people from the outside looking in say, this is one of the very best places in America to live. And it's a pretty credible source. So I think people ought to understand that they live in a beautiful place, and we're trying to make it even better. And I'm very optimistic about the future in Colorado Springs, because I think the economic indicators are good, and other sorts of activity, you know, vibrant, we're moving towards a more vibrant downtown and things like that. There's a lot to be really excited about.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us for another
Thank
City
you.
Chat, Mayor.
You bet.
And Billie, as always,
You bet.
thank you for co-hosting it with
You
me.
betcha.
And thank you for watching. This is City Chat, where we go beyond the sound bites to get you real answers to questions facing the Pikes Peak region. Until next time, I'm Eric Singer, Gazette.com.